Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Hey, Caroline. How's it going today?
Very excited to be doing the podcast today, Bryce. It's a bonus episode.
It is. Yeah, we don't get to do these bonus episodes very often. I don't remember the last one that we've done. So yeah, I'm so happy whenever, I get to dedicate more of my work week to Overdue Finds. It's always a good week then. Especially today since like we're recording this on like Snowpocalypse Day here in Edmonton. So when you're listening to this, you know which day we're talking about. Hopefully, Team Canada ended up winning tonight's game. But glad to see, Caroline, you made it into your branch okay today.
Yes, we got the doors open, people coming in. It's been great to see people coming in to knock the snow off their boots, maybe sit down, warm up for a while, and then head home with some reading or watching or viewing material. It's been great to see them today.
Nice. Yeah, and we're kind of at that time of the year where it's colder out now, and it's kind of nice just to stay in and kind of sometimes sit in front of the TV and maybe play some video games. And I'm a big video game fan. I've talked about that before on here on the podcast. And recently I was watching Global News, and they ran a story about a local writer here who actually worked on the new Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Vanguard. And we're so lucky to have her with us today. And we're, yeah, just pleased to welcome local writer Shelby Carelton to Overdue Finds. Shelby, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing so well. Thank you both so much for having me today. It's gonna be fun. Talk about some games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, I saw your interview on Global, and I think you've done a few other interviews here as well. And yeah, I've talked about quite a bit here on the show Call of Duty, and started playing Warzone during the pandemic and everything. And yeah, when we heard that, hey, somebody local actually worked on the new Call of Duty game, that's quite incredible. So kind of getting into a little bit of your history, what type of video games did you enjoy playing as a kid?
Oh man, I played everything growing up. I think one of my favorite Christmases actually was when the Nintendo Wii had just launched, and nobody could get this console. Kind of similar to the PS5 situation right now, but it was coming out. Everybody wanted it, and my mom stood outside in line for hours in the snow waiting to get one of these consoles for me. And I didn't know until Christmas when I opened it up. But before my parents gifted me the console, I actually opened the game, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, for the
Ah,
Nintendo Wii, and they were kind of cheeky about it. They told me, "Oh, Shelby, we couldn't get the console. We're so as soon as we can get it, you can play it, but here's the game in advance." And I was I was excited for that. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I I can't wait to play this." And then it was hidden under a blanket somewhere, and they tricked me. So I was even more excited to open the thing that I thought wasn't going to be available for a little while. And I played the crap out of that game. I loved that game so much. So to be able to play the new Zelda games as they come out, like Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out, hopefully in my lifetime. It feels like ages until it's going to be here. But I love doing that, playing games with my dad all the time growing up. I remember playing Shrek 2 on the Xbox. That was a,
ah.
a seminal game in my life, as well as like Resident Evil. Probably too young to be playing that. I remember asking for Ninja Gaiden 2 for Christmas when I was in grade 6. Like it was a whole it was a whole thing. All games all the time.
Yeah. I just find that funny though. Like you had it set in your mind. You got the Legend of Zelda game, and you're like, I'm okay with just staring at this case for the next few months or however long it's
Oh,
going to
oh,
be
absolutely,
until
because
the week
they
comes.
games came with guides back then, so
That's
I was
right.
ready to, like, tear into that, and I would just read the, that little booklet that came in it, kinda
Yeah.
talking about what to expect in the game and stuff like that, so yeah, I was set as far as I was concerned.
I'm quite a bit older than you. Like my first system I got was like the basic Nintendo. And the cool thing with those games too, yeah, with they obviously all came with like the actual guide.
Mhm.
And I mean the Nintendo has two buttons, so stuff isn't really that hard to do, but I did like getting those that instruction manual, because then you could look at like they had like a bio on all the villains and stuff like that that you don't get in games today.
It's true. It's true. It was a nice touch and it was a nice thing. Especially I remember when I would get games too, the drive home, I would crack into those boxes and prepare myself for what was to come.
Yeah.
So a little bit more online now, and that's okay. But
Mhm.
there was always that extra touch with those booklets, and I always liked that.
Yeah.
With those, speaking of these booklets and reading, did you always wanna be a writer?
Yes, perhaps to my parents' dismay growing up, I always wanted to be a writer, and I think that worried them a little bit. They were like, "Well, that's not a that's not something people could possibly do," but they were always so encouraging. I remember, I think my first poem was about a dinosaur coming home. He was late for dinner, something like that. The plot was it was obviously extremely structured and very well written.
I mean, I'm hooked. I need to know what happened.
Right? Did he get home in time for dinner?
Yeah.
We're not sure. But I was too young to be able to hold a pen, so I like dictated this story to my mom. It was like 4 lines long, and she wrote it down on this postcard, and she still has this postcard. And I like to think anyway that maybe in that moment, my parents were like, maybe maybe there's something here with my 4-year-old dinosaur brain. Um, but I loved it. Anything I loved reading things. I loved writing things. My favorite subject in school was always writing. And then as I got older, that transitions into a class called English. And so I loved English. I majored in English. It was always what I wanted to do. I had no idea that you could write for video games until high school, actually. But as soon as I learned that these two things could be combined, I was just over the moon. I was like, okay, this is absolutely what I want to do, and that's what I set my heart on, and that's what I went for.
I think in one of your interviews you mentioned when you were in high school, did you get a tour of BioWare here? Is that kind of
Yeah,
what kind of kickstarted that?
yeah, that's right. I was in grade 11, and my teacher at the time, his name was Mr. Dixon. He brought us he knew someone at Bioware basically, and so he brought our class to tour the studio because he really felt that games told these incredible stories that deserve to be studied the same way that pieces of literature do, the same way we're starting to look at comics as literature as well, and to see these things for having these really powerful stories and messages and characters that absolutely can be studied. They all have something different to say, and that's so exciting. So our class played through Mass Effect, and we got to play it and talk about it, and then yeah, we got to go to BioWare and see how it was made, how they cook the sausage basically, or at least as much as they could show us. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I had no idea that people that people wrote these things. I thought they kind of just, you play them and they appear. I didn't know that writing for a game was something that people did. But of course, as soon as I found out, I was like, oh well, that makes sense. Somebody has to be creating these characters and building these worlds. And I remember I was actually 17 and I applied for my first games job ever at BioWare. They were hiring a narrative designer. And I had to click the box no when they asked, "Are you 18 years of age or older?" I had to say no.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't get that, obviously, thank goodness. That would have been a bit of a mess
Yeah.
because I had no
Automatically,
experience.
HR just ends it right there.
Yeah,
It's like,
right. They're
all
like,
right,
"Oh well."
yeah, come talk to us in a few months when you turn
Yeah,
18.
right, when you turn 18 or when you have some actual, real life experience
Yeah.
making games, when your knowledge isn't just high school
Yeah.
English. But yeah, since then I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna keep applying to jobs that I'm not qualified for as experience boosters, and then that'll that'll help me figure out what I should be doing.
But you mentioned though you applied for the role of narrative designer, and that's your role with the new Call of Duty game, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we're called narrative designers.
So I guess what can you tell us about that role for somebody who like they see it on paper but they don't know exactly what it is?
Yeah, it's I always say it's funny depending, who you ask, the studio you ask, the definition of what a narrative designer does can change depending on the team, the needs of the game, the needs of the studio. But really what narrative designers do at Sledgehammer anyway is we very much are the custodians of the story. Stephen, or that's our fearless leader, our senior story director. He's the one that kind of explains. We work with so many other people to help and tell this story, and we're the ones that kind of help funnel it. So everyone has all these wonderful ideas. You're working with the game designers, the level designers, sound designers, and you're all coming together to help build this story. And so we definitely, we create these characters, we write their bios, we write their dialogue, but it's so much more than just sitting in a room and banging out some words. It's really about collaborating with everybody and telling a story together. And that's what I love so much about narrative design. And it's the tools too. You're implementing your own stuff into tool systems and learning how to do that as well. Sometimes that can be separate depending at the studio you're at. Sometimes you have narrative designers who are strictly on tools and writers who are strictly writing, but we do a bit of both, and I love it for that. All the joy and frustrations that come come with learning tools.
What was your journey like? So you were 17 and not getting the narrative designer job. Now you are one. What was your path like, and some of the experience you had working in this world?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to talk to so many different designers and hear how they ended up where they did, because everyone has such an interesting and different, maybe wild story. For me, I had a I guess I had a strange education leading up to this. So in university, I majored in English and I minored in creative writing, because I met someone at BioWare who did the same thing, and they ended up as a narrative designer. So I was like, okay, so that's proof of concept. That's enough for me to want to try that as well, because I also loved English, so I wanted to study something that I loved. But in my I think second year of university, in that summer, I ended up actually working in an artificial intelligence lab because I really enjoyed coding and neural nets and machine learning and all that stuff. And through that, I got to actually work at the BioWare studio very briefly for a summer as an associate software engineer, kind of partnering with the university for some of our research projects. And so I thought that was very cool, but definitely not where I wanted to be. I did not I did not love coding the way that I loved writing, but the experience was so cool, and I feel like I got to see another side of video games that I hadn't thought about as much. I had only really thought about the creative writing part of it, crafting characters rather than crafting code or levels. So that was really interesting, and I value that experience so much, and I think that's really what helped me kind of prove that, hey, I've worked at a studio before. I've kind of been inside. I know a little bit more than I knew before, as to how this works. And out of university, I was actually able to get a job at an indie studio writing for a science fiction MMO called Infinite Fleet. So I did that for about a year and a half. I was also brought on to an indie project here locally in the city. They're called Double Blit Games. Is this small studio, and they were working on something called Game Director Story, which was so cool. It was a branching narrative about trying to be a director of a studio and all the heavy choices that come with that. You can imagine it's a nice light, fluffy, fluffy story. So I was able to work there for a couple months, and just kind of the experience just started racking up, and I started to understand more and more about how to do a really good job telling a story. And then eventually a job posting came up for Sledgehammer Games, and I was looking for something a little bit more permanent. A lot of this work was like freelance, basically contract stuff, so you don't have dental. And that was kind of a bummer. And I wanted to be in-house somewhere. I wanted a studio to stay with for a little while. And I was just lucky enough to see this posting and decide maybe it's time now to try. You got to try, right? You don't know if you don't try. And I color coded my resume. I color picked the Sledgehammer Games logo, and I made that the highlight color on my resume. And that was it. Yeah, I got an interview, and here I am.
Wow. So, like, did you know that you would be working on the latest Call of Duty game, or did you just think like, well, I'm applying with this studio, they'll have other games, or did you know kind of the whole time it like I'm going to be working on the latest Call of Duty game?
When I applied, I definitely suspected, because Sledgehammer previously had they'd made Advanced Warfare and World War II, which I really loved,
Mhm.
and so I kind of had I had an idea of kind of what I was applying for. But Steven, our boss, was kind enough to tell me, I think after the first or second interview, after I'd signed all those fun NDAs, exactly what the project was. and he described it to me like the beginnings of what Vanguard would become, and I was just hooked. I thought that was such an interesting idea, bringing together all of these different people to form a team to show their
Mhm.
bonds as friends, as humans. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I definitely want to be a part of that. And we joke because one of our one of our coworkers, his name's Rob, he's a senior narrative designer at the studio. He said he wasn't told at all what he would be working on until much later. I think after he'd been hired or something like that. So we all make fun of him that he had no idea what he was walking into, and then lo and behold, he had us, right? Like we all met each other. We all get along so well. So that's pretty funny.
So, like, how long did you actually work on the game for? Like, was it like, are we talking years? Are we talking like months? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it certainly takes years to make a game, but I was just brought on in March. So I've only been, yeah, what, that's like 8 or 9 months. So it was quite, it was quite a journey being brought on at the end of a game's, or towards the end of a game's life cycle. There was still so much writing to be done. And so that was great. I definitely, I had stuff to do, stuff that I was able to contribute, along with the rest of the team. But it was fun. It was very cool. They just kind of throw you into the deep end, with help. Obviously, they're not just like good luck. They're like,
Yeah,
okay, here's all this
impress
stuff
us.
going on. Yeah, right. Here's everything that's happening. Here's what you're going to be working on. Here's how we can help you. And yeah, it was awesome. The transition period I felt was very painless, mostly because the team is just incredible. Like I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to be introduced to get to work with and learn from. That's been like one of the best parts is learning from them.
Did you meet with them constantly while you were working with the game, or is it just kind of like, obviously you're probably working remote because of the pandemic,
Yes.
but is it just kind of we meet up every day and chat about stuff, or is it just constantly kind of working with others on the team?
Yeah, it was pretty constant in terms of working with other people. Like Sledgehammer also had help from other studios in making this game, so it was cool to be able to speak with them as well. It's not just Sledgehammer. There are so many other people involved, and that was a really cool experience to be able to collaborate with like an entirely different studio and see how they did things and what their thoughts and ideas were. But yeah, we talked pretty much every day. We have stand up every second day, so 3 times a week, to make sure that everybody's on track. Anybody needs help if there's any blockers, stuff like that. But our team, we also like each other quite a bit. So
That always
we,
helps.
yeah, right. So we definitely spoke every day, not only out of like necessity to make sure, this game is getting made and we're doing what we need to be doing, and we don't need help, or if we do need help, our concerns are being addressed, but also just to check in, like, hey, how's it going? Stuff like that. We would
Mhm.
even have like social meetups once a week on Zoom, and just kind of like, I don't know, play a game, or we're really into tarot cards and the meanings of tarot and how those could be, shaping stories and stuff like that. So it was really cool to get to know the team better in that way, and um, we definitely had that bond that I don't think any of us could have predicted coming into it. So that was very cool.
My next question was gonna be about if it was a challenge to come up with something new or different that hadn't been seen in games before, but I think you answered that with the tarot cards and this group dynamic that you have.
Yeah, yeah, I think so much of the foundation of the game had been built already. When we had come on, we there were three incredible contract writers who they were working with from the very inception of this game, and so they laid a ton of the groundwork for the characters and kind of the shape of the story. But we got to come in and help carry these characters across the finish line, right? Give them maybe our own little pieces of input or dialogue, or what we think they should be doing, the levels and stuff like that. But I think somewhere our team really was able to shine was in our like multiplayer character creation. A lot of those were left to our team to kind of help shape and flesh out, and working with the multiplayer team to do that. And I think we came up with some really cool stuff to try and basically our goal was to have everybody who plays Call of Duty and on be able to see themselves in this game in some form, not only to see yourself represented, but to see maybe somebody else represented that you're not as familiar with, to get to know a different kind of person, and hopefully have those empathy gears click on, even if you're not aware that that's what's happening. So I think our team was so proud to be able to come in and really make a diverse roster of characters and have everybody, on every team really excited about doing that. That was really really cool. And something, yeah, I'm so proud of as these seasons continue to launch, because this isn't the full roster. There's characters that are going to come out for the next year, basically. We're all very excited for everyone to get to meet them.
As somebody who plays it quite a bit, I also am very excited about it. And so I have to ask, like, Warzone was so popular, and for those of you who don't know, it was a free online Call of Duty game. You can hop on and play against others from all over the world. And I understand though that Warzone's actually going to be changing quite a bit now with Vanguard here at the end of November, I believe. Was your team kind of involved in that change up?
Yeah, we're what's cool about Vanguard is it's like, so our the cool tagline for the game is like rise on every front. And that refers to not only the single player campaign where we have these soldiers from all over the world kind of coming together to form a team, rise on every front, but also the game modes. So we've got, the single player campaign. Vanguard is also integrated fully into multiplayer, into zombies, and into Warzone as well. So I think that's where those that kind of integration is what you're talking about, for Vanguard, and we
Mhm.
were able to have our characters not only in our multiplayer but in Warzone as well, and we were able to write their Warzone lines and their dialogue in that way. So I think we're all really excited to be able to see those characters in that game mode, running around,
Yeah.
doing their thing, and yeah, and everything else that is to come as well. Expanding the Warzone story. I think everybody saw that cool story trailer that dropped on the Vanguard reveal date, which was very cool. Just kind of continuing the narrative into Warzone a little bit. So that was really cool. So I'm excited for people to play Warzone and get into that and enjoy it, because I know I also love Warzone. I play with friends all the time, and it's a really good way to stay connected with people.
Mhm.
So yeah, I hope that helps people to continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely spent, in 10, 15 years or 20 years, when we're looking back on the pandemic, it's like, what did you do? My friends and I joke around that, like, telling our grandkids or whatever that, like, we spent the pandemic in Verdansk, basically. So playing that. The one thing I just wanted to quickly touch on, you talked about a little bit the diverse characters, which I thought was really interesting. You don't normally see that for. I've played a lot of World War II games. Typically,
Mhm.
you don't see that a lot. And when I started playing Vanguard, of course, I go into multiplayer, and there's they. I think there's like maybe 8 or 10 characters. Like, you can't unlock everything at once, but it is a nice mixture. Like, there's like, obviously you have like the main character um in the story, Kingsley, who's originally from Cameroon, and the storyline is, of course, like you said, all these different soldiers kind of coming together to work as a team. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool element of the game that you don't see in a lot of games these days.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, that was really important to us. We are certainly trying to stay grounded in history and in the battles that happened, and the people that fought, but we're not bound to it. So we can definitely try and showcase as many different characters as we can, and so taking some liberties there. But for a lot of these characters, especially our protagonists, they are based on real world people that
Mm.
that fought in this war. Arthur Kingsley is based on a real team of Black British paratroopers. Polina is based on Lady Death, and she was a real person serving in World War II, a Russian sniper. So it's interesting to see, I think, for myself, like just how little I knew about World War II. Actually, when it came down to it, there's so many untold stories that we don't hear about as often. And so it was really a goal of Vanguard for like the entire team to just help shed some light on these stories. And maybe as you play this game and you're enjoying the narrative and stuff like that, maybe you're learning something too. I know I did. I learned so much. We had historians, that helped us craft all of these different characters so that they would be, their stories would be in line with the historical events. And that was such a cool experience. I had never really enjoyed history in high school, probably because it was just, it was so brief. It was kind of the big plot points of what happened, and then we moved on. So it was amazing to get this deep dive and to do research on your own, because I was genuinely interested and I genuinely cared about these people and what happened. So that was so cool. So I'm so glad that that you appreciate the diversity. I know that's something that it was such a big goal of ours, because I think everyone should be able to see themselves in video games in one way or another. So it was so cool to be able to contribute to that with this game.
What has the experience been like for you to have the game released out in the world, people playing it? How does that feel to you?
It was wild. I think on in one interview, I was asked, this game is going to be played by like millions of people around the world. How does that feel? And to be honest, I hadn't really thought about that up until that question. But launch day was a ton of fun. I went out with my partner. We went to the mall actually, and I went to a GameStop and I purchased the game that I had worked on over the counter. Like, seeing it as a physical copy was wild, to see something that you helped to create and to see all these people playing it and enjoying it. I think it's been so great to see so many people, not only on our team, but the players, to see the feedback that they've had about just like loving these characters and the story and having so much fun in multiplayer. And it makes you feel good as somebody who put so much like love and time and sweat and blood and tears into this, to see people come back and say, hey, you did good. Like, that's been so wonderful, because this game, it is for the players, right? It's for people to play and to enjoy. So that people have been doing just that, it's like, yeah, it feels awesome. Yeah.
A lot of times video games have little Easter eggs and little details that you might not spot while playing them. Was there anything that you can tell us that maybe you sprinkled in for maybe one of the or maybe one of the multiplayer modes, or one of the characters that maybe only you or the team kind of knew about, but you play it now and you're like, ah, yes, that was me.
Yeah, I think I definitely have a couple special things in multiplayer for a character who will be coming out. Not out yet, so I can't say too much there, but I hope that people love him as much as I do. So that's all I'll say there. But there definitely are some moments in single player where the team sprinkled in a couple Easter eggs. Whether those were some of our favorite lines, like inspirations of our favorite lines from films that we loved, from stories that we loved. There's a couple in there. I think there's one really obvious one. I won't say what it is, because it would be cool for you to go in and find it. But there's definitely lines where we'll when they come up, we'll all look at each other and laugh. Or if we were in person, that's what we would do.
Do you have any Call of Duty tips that you could share with a new player?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think as a game, Call of Duty is like a difficult one to play if you're brand new. But I definitely recommend start on Recruit. That's the I guess the easy, quote unquote, easy difficulty. That's the one I sometimes play on. No worries there. It's a tough game. My partner, who's very experienced at Call of Duty, he was playing on that mode sometimes too. I think just take it slow, pay attention to your surroundings. I think that's a good one. Go towards the light. A sweet trick that so many wonderful level designers use is placing light in awesome places to help guide you if you're ever feeling lost. So I think that's a good one. As well as listen to your teammates. There's a lot of team dynamics in this game where you play as Arthur and you're helping to guide your team basically, and they can be pretty helpful at times. So I would definitely don't discount your team members, even though they are AI. give them stuff to do, and they will do it for you.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about. There's been a couple times where I thought I was going in the right spot, and I got a little heads up, we're over here, so we could use some backup. So I absolutely agree with that. And also too, there's no shame on playing recruit mode. As somebody who doesn't get to game a whole lot during the week, it's I just like to be able to sit down and enjoy the game. And yeah, you don't want it to be too hard, maybe. But for casual gamers like myself, there is no shame in playing on recruit mode.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know there's one section, if you so choose, you can try and blow up a plane that's like flying, circling overhead with a grenade, if that's how you want to take that plane
Oh,
down. There is a way to do it. I am told. I have never seen anyone do it. I have never done it myself. But there are, those like mini challenges if you so desire, an extra level of difficulty. But yeah, I'm a big fan of playing games on recruit mode, so to speak, because yeah, it just kind of lets you sit back and enjoy what's happening. I really obviously love like the stories of games, the narrative. I like looking around, reading things. I'm that person that'll pick up stuff and and read it and appreciate, man, someone took the time to sit down and write this. So yeah. Yeah.
nice. You're like, I'm just not gonna. Yeah, sometimes you get that in games where there's like a poster on a wall and you just think to run past it. But now on, after speaking with you here today, it's like I'm gonna stop and read those posters on the wall and those other little details. Somebody worked hard on that.
Right, yeah, I guarantee somebody is very proud of that poster on that wall.
That's right.
And it's probably actually way cooler than you think, right? On first pass by, because everyone, at least especially on Vanguard, like everyone was just so excited. We actually got some cool posters to design for Polina, like she had a wanted poster and stuff like that. And they're very cool. So check them
Nice.
out.
So those are some tips for new Call of Duty players. What about someone who is now discovered that they could write for a video game? That is a job. What advice do you have for someone who's would like to do what you do?
Yeah, I think it's never, first of all, it's never too late to start. If you find something that you want to do, it doesn't matter how old you are, young or old, you're never too anything. So don't feel that you've started too early or you're starting too late. I don't think that that's ever true. I think the second thing is, if you're serious about wanting to start applying for these jobs, I would absolutely put together a short excerpt from a screenplay, whether that's a couple pages of like a scene that showcases how you write dialogue, how you handle scenes like that. That's definitely a huge thing that a lot of studios are looking for: your ability to handle those kinds of short snippets of things. As well, you could put together something called a bark sheet. This is basically just different characters emoting or saying quips. We call them quips, as stuff happens around them. So maybe they got like a triple kill. They would say something, right? They would say like an exclamation or something like that. Maybe there's somebody blocking a door and they have to write a couple variations of, oh, please please move away from the door. Right, I'm going to break down this door. I'm going to pick you up and move you from this door, right, depending on their personality. So having a quip sheet or having barks for different variations of stuff that's happening in the world, whether it's a battle, stuff like that, is a great way to showcase you can write for different voices, and that's really important, especially for these bigger games where there are many characters. There's a whole roster, right? That's really important. And then I think the last thing is just putting yourself out there, putting your work out there, whether it's trying to get, if you have like short fiction or anything like that, trying to get it published. I think that's great experience, and having somebody else look over your work. Game jams are an awesome way to meet other developers who are probably just as excited as you are about making awesome stuff. So definitely feel free to do that. Yeah, and I think just don't give up. I know that a lot of the time it can feel really frustrating, to keep trying and trying, and to not feel like you're getting anywhere. But I think as long as it's the thing that you want to do and you love it, and you want to keep trying it, if it's still bringing you joy, then keep trying.
So, since we're a library podcast, we ask this of all of our guests. Do you have a recent, maybe book, movie, TV show, music recommendation that you could share with our listeners?
Yes, actually, I hope this isn't going to be too contentious, because apparently some people haven't liked it, but I went to see Eternals recently
Hmm.
and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I know some people, I feel like people go and they see it and they either really love it or they really hate it. And I thought the movie had its flaws. The plot was really something. It was this huge scale kind of like space stuff happening and all that. But what I loved so much was the characters. I thought the characters were absolutely wonderful. They all had a different goal around like a central theme, and I love that when there's like a central theme and like everybody has a different view of it, a different experience with it. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend Eternals if you're okay. If you love characters, basically, if you love characters and their relationships and how they solve problems, I thought it was a very cool film. I'm a big Chloe Zhao fan, so yeah, would highly recommend.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Shelby. It's been wonderful talking with you and learning and hearing all these cool inside details. Is there anything else that you're working on that we should be on the lookout for that you can tell us about?
I think something really cool is when these multiplayer characters come out when they're like released over the course of the seasons. They have a trailer, like a little character trailer that goes with them. And I have the benefit of knowing like what all of these trailers are. But I can tell you that I think they're awesome. And I would highly recommend if anyone unlocks some of these new characters or anything like that, or even maybe after they come out, find them on YouTube. These little like 40-second character trailers are so cool. And so, yeah, if I could say anything, it would be, man, go watch some of those trailers because our team is just so proud of them. We worked with so many people to create them and make them like really special and give you like a quick insight, like this is who this character is and this is why they're awesome. And I just think they're so fun. So I'm very excited for those to keep coming out.
I'm definitely going to go check those out, and we will link to those on our show notes. But yeah, we hope everybody enjoyed today's episode. I know we both loved chatting with Shelby today. So if you haven't yet, we encourage you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Even more importantly, please tell a friend about the show. And of course, we'd love to hear from our listeners. You can email us at podcast@epl.ca. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.